Coach Anna with Balance Art Multisport, and I'm here with our awesome bike fitter, Precision Bike Fit, Jeff Sherrard. And Jeff, we were just briefly talking about your history in the cycling world. Could you just give me a little background on that?
So my history, there's a lot more to it than we were talking about. But
give me the cliff notes.
So I raced mountain bikes professionally for
Okay.
a couple of years.
Okay.
And then worked at a number of different bike shops and just really fell in love with cycling.
Okay.
I've always been on a bicycle or involved with cycling ever since I could ride a bike.
Right.
So I remember as a kid just tearing bikes apart and fixing them and always wondering how they
Tinkering.
worked and tinkering.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So I've been involved with it pretty much my whole life.
Okay. And you were a pro racer for a while?
Yeah,
Okay.
mountain biking.
Mountain biking.
Yeah.
Ouch.
So
I fall down. I fall down when I mountain bike. A lot.
I've fallen down a lot too. It sounds cooler than it is. I mean, being pro was basically sleeping in your car to go to races and eating ramen noodles.
Yeah, that does not sound.
No.
That doesn't sound.
It
Exciting.
wasn't very glamorous. I wasn't that amazing, but it was a really cool experience.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have
I
traded
bet.
it for the
Well,
world.
that's really cool. So the reason we're here is that we wanted to talk about bike fit, and we wanted to talk about some of the key mistakes and the fixes that you could do, whether you already own a bike or you're looking to purchase a bike. So I know instead of going through the whole video and finding out the number one mistake, I'm going to ask you first, what is the number one mistake people make when it comes to a bike, buying a bike, owning a bike? What's the number one mistake?
I would say that it's purchasing the wrong size of bike.
Yep.
And then we talked a little bit about this earlier, but there's also the trickle down of wrong components,
Right, seat,
those types of things
like that.
But number one.
But how do you know what's the right size? I mean, you go on the internet on a bike site and you see your size and then you see the size of the bike. Is that always correct?
Not always.
Not always.
It is a good start. I mean, if you were to go it alone and you weren't to seek out a professional like myself as a fitter, and you went alone, the bike shop or the internet is a good place to go. You're going to find enough information on there that you could avoid a big mistake.
Okay.
But there are other things you have to take into consideration. One of the biggest problems I run into with especially our women. It's easier for a guy for us to walk in and go, well, I'm 5'11", so put me on a 56.
Okay.
It's a little easier.
Right.
You have a 5'11" woman that walks in.
Right.
You can't just put them on a 56.
Well, because like longer torso, shorter legs, right? Things like that.
Yes.
And then hips,
Yes.
we're shaped differently.
And biomechanically work differently too.
Right.
So with women, again, let's go back to the 5'11" thing. So if I've got a woman that's the same height as me.
Right.
I wouldn't put her necessarily in the same bike just because of her overall height.
Gotcha.
So I have what's called a sizing session, and most other fitters have options for you. They even have bikes.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah.
And they kind of change based on your size. And then and you do that because of frames, right? Even not even just the size of your bike, but certain frames are built, like a felt is built different than a Trek.
Yes, and you bring up a great point.
All right.
Because what I end up doing with my clients when they come
Okay, so let's say I bought a bike. I got a really good deal, and it seems like it fits me, and I've been tooling around in my neighborhood on it, but like my back is starting to hurt, and my knees are starting to hurt, and my hands are falling asleep. What do I do? I mean, what if I don't have somebody like you? I mean, what's the first thing I do? I mean, because it's really sad when you buy a new bike and you want to go explore, but you're in pain.
Yeah. So one of the tough things with that is that when we're trying to listen to our body,
right,
and let's say that the back hurts,
right,
may not necessarily be the back that's causing the problem.
Okay, so it's a symptom.
It's a symptom.
Okay.
Exactly.
Right.
And so a lot of times people listen to the symptom and they'll try to fix just the one symptom and they don't realize something else is going on. But if we kind of go back to common mistakes that I usually see with clients, usually they will come in and the seat will actually be too low. And as that's too low, it compresses things and actually puts more weight into our pelvis. And it puts our lower back into a bad position.
Like compression.
Yeah, and you put a lot of compression in there.
Gotcha.
And when people come in, they say, well, I don't want to be stretched out on my bike. And I have to say, look, I don't want to stretch you out, but I need to neutralize
like open you up. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
So back issues usually can be a case of being too low on the seat and too squished.
Okay. All right. Well, I didn't know that. Okay. See, even I learned something today. So maybe raising the seat a little bit.
Yes.
Might help the back.
Raising the seat.
So what if my knees are hurting though?
And it depends on where your knees hurt.
Yeah.
But usually, if the knees are bothering you,
okay,
general rule of thumb is if it's on the front, most likely the seat is either too low, too far forward,
Right.
or the nose is tilted.
Okay, again, more of that squish thing, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so
Compressed.
people are afraid of being stretched out, so they squish everything together.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Now, talking about the knees, though,
Right.
if the knees hurt on the outside,
Outside or
or
the
the
inside.
that could be a placement of the cleat. So if the cleat is turned and
And
your
what
foot
is the cleat?
So on the bottom of a shoe, you've
On
got
the bottom
your
of the
shoes
shoe.
here, don't
Yeah,
you?
here, yeah,
Let's
got my
look at
shoes.
your shoe, and
Yeah.
I'll explain.
Because some people don't know what a cleat is.
Yeah. So at the bottom, if you're using what is called a clipless pedal, or you're clipping into,
Right.
people always go, why do they call it clipless?
I know, and I know the answer to this.
For a long time.
The toe used to go
Yeah.
in, and you used to
Yeah.
do the Velcro-y
Yeah.
kind of thing, and
Yeah.
that was called a clip
and
shoe.
they called that a clip. So once they got rid of it,
They call it clipless, even though you clip in.
yes, I know,
I
strange. huh?
love that I know that.
So this cleat on
Cleat.
the bottom of your shoe
Right.
can be rotated a
Rotated.
couple of different ways.
Right.
So if your foot is turned one way or the other, it can put pressure inside or outside on the knee, and so that could be this kind of.
Okay.
I usually tell people there's like a pendulum of pressure that happens with the body, whether it's fore and aft or lateral or vertical or whatever. But I usually talk about that with the knee.
Okay.
So on your knee, if your knee is one way, pendulum of pressure is going to be on the inside. If
inside.
it's the other way, it's going to be here,
Okay.
and that can be this. But usually the front of the knee is too low
And
too
far
forward. Yeah.
forward. Yeah. So, I mean, I would suggest if you are having knee pain for someone who has a bad knee, I would definitely seek out somebody and get a fit.
Yes.
You know, don't mess with that, especially when you're messing with the cleat on the bottom of your shoe on your clipless pedals or
Yes.
clip in or clipless.
Clipped in, clipless. But the other thing too is that there's a component of this that is an efficiency, but a lot of it comes down to comfort. And so one of my fitting mentors always said that from the get-go is that comfort has to come first.
Yes.
If you can be comfortable, that allows you to be efficient for much longer on the bicycle.
So I know that for beginner athletes, I know with myself on my, I have a P3 as my triathlon bike. This is my Cervelo. This is my road bike. That I know it was last year that we took the handlebars and we lowered them 3 millimeters. Now, if you had done that to me when I first got the bike in the first fitting,
no way.
there would have been no way. But as I progressed and became like more athletic and a better rider, you were able to take me to a more aggressive position because I was more comfortable. But if you had put me in that position in the beginning, I would have been miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely when you mention comfort, you're right. I was efficient at that height, but I was able to become even more efficient because I was more able to take more aggressive. So when you see those guys in Ironman where their seat is up here and their handlebars are down there.
Not for everybody.
No, and that takes years.
Yes.
That takes years.
Full-time job years.
Yeah, so do not, go to your bike fitter and tell them to lower your handlebars as low as they'll go so that you'll be aerodynamic. That doesn't always make you more aerodynamic.
No, it doesn't. And that brings up a good point.
Yeah.
So I've had the opportunity to work in a wind tunnel with athletes.
Okay.
And the things that I thought were going to make you more aerodynamic, when we got there, the technician at the wind tunnel was saying, that's not going to help at all.
Right.
We have to focus somewhere else. And we did find with the one athlete, this was specific to her,
Right.
not everybody, but we did find that we needed to come up a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And we actually put her in we had like a $390 helmet and a $40 helmet, and the $40 helmet was more aerodynamic.
See? Free speed is not always expensive.
No, it's not. But we had to look at the overall picture.
Right.
But just slamming the front end did not make her more
Right.
aerodynamic. So one of the things that he explained is that everybody worries about the front end of the bike by dropping or slamming. But he was trying to explain to me that the turbulence that happens behind the body and behind the bike is way more important to deal with than the front end. And so by bringing her up a little bit, we slowed down the turbulence that happened back here. And she became more aerodynamic.
That is so cool.
But as a fitter, since I'm not in a wind tunnel, the only thing
Right.
I can really worry about is efficiency.
Right.
So if I just slam somebody's front end, that may close their hip angle off,
Right.
and then they're not as efficient.
Right. And
So
we
with
know about the
you-
hip angle.
Yes, the hip angle. So with you, again, getting you into that position and by lowering, I had to monitor the hip angle the whole time to make sure that as we did go down,
I didn't lose
the
power.
hip angle didn't close off and you didn't lose power.
Yeah, because if you're gaining, or if you're reducing your drag, right, by lowering maybe your handlebars, but you're less efficient in the pedals, then you're losing power that you can put in the bike, which is going to make you uncomfortable anyway.
Yep.
And so it doesn't matter how aerodynamic you are because you're miserable.
Yep. And it's like the same conversation with swimming. Hydrodynamics versus power or efficiency in the water. You have to have a balance.
Yes.
But the one thing you don't want to do is lose efficiency ever.
Yeah, no.
So.
No, you don't want to be. So what about hands? I know a lot of athletes tell me that their hands fall asleep.
Yeah.
What's a fix for that?
So there are different places the hand will fall asleep, but the most common that I've run into people with is out by their pinky finger.
Side, yeah.
So your ulnar nerve runs right down the outside of the hand, and if you have a lot of pressure on this part of the palm of the hand towards the pinky, you're going to cut that circulation off.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter if you stop for coffee or a break or whatever. It's hard to get that circulation going back in there. Now there's a whole other conversation we can talk about locking that nerve up and unlocking it. But on the bicycle, usually people will place these up here are called the hoods. Let me grab a bar here that I can
show
move
us.
to. So this is one of my little adjustable bars.
Oh, cool. See, so you even have a bar
that changes width.
That changes, so when you have an athlete coming in, you'll know what size bars to order for them.
Exactly.
Oh, that's awesome.
Especially
I didn't know that.
for shoulder.
Big shoulder people, right, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
But these hoods on here can be adjusted up or down based off of, whatever your riding preference is.
Okay.
But most of the time when people are in here, their hoods I find are really high. And they put a lot of pressure on that back side of the hand.
Edge, okay.
And it causes a lot of pain too.
Gotcha.
There almost can be sharp, stinging pain and numbness.
Okay.
So to eliminate that pressure, it's counterintuitive. I usually tell people, let's lower the hood down and distribute the pressure more evenly
here
through
on
the
the
palm
hand.
of the hand.
Yeah, that's where I
opposed to
ride.
being all the way back here.
And I bet they're afraid to do that because this would stretch them out, they think, when they're trying to get more back.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah. See, so many mistakes that we think.
Yes.
And we're messing it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to be careful with that adjustment too, because if you adjust that and you roll that forward, and all of a sudden you have way too much pressure between the finger and thumb, you've gone too far.
Okay.
I've also had some people that roll it too far and the pressure back in the heel gets even worse.
Okay.
So you just have to be careful. The whole thing is that people always ask me, where should the pressure be? It really should be through the palm of my hand.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And if for some reason your wrist feels heavy, that's another thing. But one of the tricks that I usually do, and most people don't realize this, but there
Who's going to tell me a trick?
Adjustments
No, there isn't.
Inside here. So there is a little bolt right there.
Shut up.
So when we adjust this, I can loosen this and I can bring these out or toe them in. And notice how I've had your hoods are shaped, they follow the shape of the bar, the curve of the bar.
Right.
That will keep the wrist from being turned, because when we lift our hands, we don't lift them straight up.
Right.
They roll in a little bit.
Yeah,
so if our wrists are in a little bit, my little trick is I like to bring the hoods in a little bit and distribute that pressure throughout the hands. So
here's
we want
the thing: don't try to do this on your own. Just come see Jeff. That's really that's what really what we're a professional fitter.
If you're not in Utah, yes, I mean there are other.
You can fly in. We have an airport here.
Yes, come fly in, come see me. But there's a lot of professionals that know these tricks. And again, a lot of this stuff, over 19 years of doing this, I've figured things out, but also learned from other people.
Right.
That are out
well,
there
like you said, in the wind tunnel. Yeah. And without the access to that, you would not have known that. Well, at least not at that moment. You might have figured it out at some point.
Hopefully.
So, okay, so we realize that if we do something, if we open ourselves up a little bit, we might take some pressure off the pelvis so our back won't hurt so much. And our seat position also will have something to do with pain in the front of the knee.
Yes.
But the cleat, which is on the bottom of the shoe, is going to affect possibility of pain on the inside or the outside.
Yes.
And then the angle of the hoods and where we put our hands on the handlebars will help with the hands.
Correct.
Is there anything else when you have an athlete come in that is like something you dial into when you first see them hop on the bike, and it's something you see often with a lot of people?
It'd actually be before they're on the bike.
Oh.
And it's their feet.
Okay,
That's
so what do you do with that?
Probably one of the biggest areas, or the most time that I will spend with an athlete is with their feet.
On their feet. Why?
Yeah. It is your foundation.
Okay. Even when you're sitting down?
Even when you're sitting down.
Okay.
So there's really only 5 contact points on the bike. There's hands, butt, feet.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So
I'm like, wait, that's 3. That's
2
5.
hands, 2 feet.
I got it.
Yeah. So you have those contact points, but it all starts with the feet.
Okay.
Now, talking about the knees, if we don't have a stable base, the knees will move during the pedal stroke.
Right.
And I usually tell people your knee is just a hinge. It is a dumb part of your body. It's only going to do what it's told to do or what it's allowed to do.
Right.
And the foot usually does the telling. So
Okay.
if that knee moves as opposed to not being able to go where it needs to go, if that has a wild movement, it's usually the
Coming
foot
from the foot.
barking a command to that knee saying, we have to go this way or this way because your arch is collapsing, or you have pronation, or there's a whole other thing that usually blows people's mind when they come in here, which is what's called a Varus or Valgus angle of the foot.
Right, right.
So with you, we've actually put yellow wedges
Yep.
in
It's
the
hard
bottom.
to see, but they're in there.
They're in there, and
Yep.
they are thicker on one side and thinner on the other.
And so you're telling me this, like, you should see this. This is like, how much of a difference is the inside to the outside? It was like 1/10 of a millimeter?
Yeah, it's
and you're
deep.
telling me this is going to fix my knee?
Yes.
This is all I needed?
And the other thing too is that a minor thing like that will have a larger effect
Up the kinetic chain.
Yes, up the kinetic chain.
Wow.
But if you
This
have
is
a
nothing.
Varus angle where you put all of your pressure out on your pinky toe, most people come in and they say, well, my feet go numb and my pinky toes go numb, and starts on the outside. That's the most common.
Okay.
Valgus is super rare. Like
Okay.
87% of the population is Varus.
Right.
In fact, so much that Specialized actually builds it into
Into the shoe.
the shoe.
Gotcha.
So not all their shoes, but some of their shoes actually has a
I have to
Varus angle to it.
say that, and I might be wrong, I see a lot of men with their knees bowed out, but I see a lot of women with one or two knees that roll in, usually one knee though.
Yes.
So women knees, am I correct or no? I see women, their knees roll in, men, they always have their knees sticking out.
So you're on to something here.
Okay.
So the knees coming out, that has to do with hips.
Right,
So
with
when
the
I was
pelvis.
talking about allowing
Got you, okay.
and then commanding.
Okay.
So if the knee is moving, that's
Right.
the foot. If the knees just stay
Already-
out
right.
and they can't come in, that's an
That's the
internal
hip.
rotation problem.
God, there's so much to know.
There's a ton. And
Yeah.
the one of the things is that there's a quick fix for that where people will space their pedals out. But it doesn't change what their knee does.
because they're trying to match the knee, but
Yeah.
the knee, that
The knee is
doesn't,
coming from here.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the top of the pedal stroke, it doesn't matter what you
it's
do, it wants to go
it's
in.
still going to go out.
So that's a whole other thing. But
oh, yeah.
the difference between the way that men's hips work and women's hips work.
Yes.
So if you look at actually their running mechanics,
Mm-hmm.
when men run, they cross their feet over. So
Mm-hmm.
they actually close their Q factor, knees want to come out.
Right. Women
So with women,
have an open,
more
yeah.
open, and so for them, sometimes the Q factor is too wide on the bike,
And
and
they
their
want the
knees
knees
want
to
to come in because I shouldn't say on the bike. The pedals or the cleats are too wide for their Q factor.
Right.
And what that does is it drives their knees in a little bit. So just in the fact that they work differently, but we were talking earlier about men and women being different. Yes, women's femurs are shorter, so that also creates that pull in. So then we have a conversation of shorter cranks, making sure the seat is
I know,
on the
we
pedal.
haven't even touched on any of that. Yeah,
Well,
we're just pretty much dealing with the frame of the bike. But I mean, we could talk about this for hours.
Oh, we could. And I could spend a good chunk of this just on the feet.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, is one thing I know that, and like I said, when I first got my Cervelo and you fitted me and we dialed the fit in, at that time, that fit was perfect. But as I evolved as an athlete, the fit, we could be more aggressive. It wasn't uncomfortable, but we realized we could be more aggressive. So same thing is, as you start to ride more season after season, it would be very positive for you to go back to your bike fitter and see if the bike fit is still the right fit for you. Or maybe even like, let's say you had a crash or you were inactive for a period of time or something like that, and then you get back on the bike and you realize the fit doesn't feel the same. Definitely utilizing your bike fitter. And we talked about incremental fits,
Yes.
incremental changes, small changes here and there, not changing everything at once. Because if you do that, then you don't know what did or didn't work.
Yes. And one of the things too that brings up kind of a good point, along with your incremental, kind of keeping the scientific, approach to it. With all of my clients, and it should be this way with any fitter or any time that you have a fit, you have to understand if you do make drastic changes, it's going to be weird.
Yeah. Oh,
You
yeah.
can't just change something and expect it to be perfect the next day.
Yeah.
So I tell all of my clients that there are things that are not okay, and I think the cycling community and triathletes on their bikes need to understand pain and numbness are not okay.
No, not. You
That
don't
is
work
not
through
part
that.
of it.
No.
And you're never going to work through it.
No. It's just going to get worse.
It's just going to get worse.
Yep.
So that's a big thing. No pain, no numbness. The other thing too is that after you make a change, yes, it might be awkward or strange, but you have to adapt to that and kind of figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
My industry actually tells people that it's going to take you about 4 to 6 months to completely adapt to all the changes that you made. And I don't disagree with that,
Right.
but it usually stops being awkward after 3 or 4 rides.
Yeah, I was gonna say 4 to 6 months sounds like a long time. I know when you lowered my stem by 3 millimeters, the first time I hopped on that bike, I felt like I was pedaling downhill. That was crazy.
Weird, huh?
But now
Now it's
I
normal.
don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I have a client that is coming back to see me, I mean, you know Kyle Lewis.
Yes.
So here's a guy that I've worked with for probably 7 years. And he came in yesterday just to tweak his fit.
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong.
Yeah.
He just wanted to look at a couple of things and he goes, hey, I have something I want to run by you. And I love when my clients come and they're very vocal and they can say, here's what I'm noticing, because I'm not on the bike with them. I
Right.
try to do the best that I
Yeah.
can. But good fitters are good listeners. So, I mean, my suggestion for anybody is that if they are going to see a fitter, find somebody that's going to listen to you.
Okay.
Yes, they
Good
have
advice.
a professional background, but they also have to listen to the client. And when this gentleman came in the other day, I listened to him and said, you know what, I don't have a problem with what you want to do. Let's make the appropriate adjustments. Part of what he wanted to do was not ideal, and I explained to him why. But the other part was a great idea, and I said,
Right.
let's run with that.
Right.
So between the two of us, I think we came up with a pretty good solution, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, that was just yesterday. So after a couple of rides, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But after 7 years of working with him, we still made these
Small changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because our body changes. You know, we get older. I mean, not me, but just other people.
Yeah. I think people are shocked when they find out how old you are.
But seriously, you get older, you're not as pliable. We don't recover as quickly. You know, so a long ride one day, you know, might carry into the next day and the next day. And if there is anything that I could do with my bike to help me get into the next ride faster, you know, or in better recovery, because I'm not dealing with numbness, I'm not dealing with pain, I'm able to put power into the pedals, yeah, then I would definitely do it. I mean, it makes
sense. The other
sense.
thing too is that just balancing out those muscles and the muscle groups, especially with your background, having that personal trainer fitness. I mean, we want a balance.
Yeah.
And if we don't have that balance on the bike, we overwork certain muscles, and they have a harder time recovering if we're overloading.
That's a whole nother.
Yeah.
All right, well, Jeff, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
My
Again, this
pleasure.
is Jeff Sherrard with Precision Bike Fit here in Sandy, Utah, and I am Coach Anna with Balance Art Multisport. Thank you.